have always been deeply in love with my husband, but after his passing, I discovered his diary. Every page was filled with his love for Eden Lin. However, because I had once funded his education and he felt indebted to me, he couldn't bring himself to betray me. They were fated to be apart in this life, destined to reunite only in the next. Eden Lin is the daughter of our family's nanny. Given a second chance at life, I have decided to let them be together. The weather in September wasn't as hot anymore. During the break between classes, I stood by the edge of the playground, gulping down mineral water. In my previous life, not long after reading Knox Shear's diary, I also passed away peacefully. I had hoped to meet my husband in the underworld and lay everything out clearly with him. If he didn't love me, he could have just said it outright. It's not like I couldn't live without him. After the divorce, he could have easily pursued a relationship with Eden Lin in our previous life, sparing himself the regret and the desperate hope for a second chance in the next. But who would have thought that the moment I opened my eyes, I found myself back in high school, recalling the contents of my diary from that past life. A dull ache filled my heart, accompanied by an overwhelming sense of disgust. Knox Shear, Eden Lin, and I were classmates in high school, back then, in our senior year. When everyone was pushing hard for the college entrance exams, he had to drop out due to his grandmother's medical expenses. He was a top student, the kind who ranked first every year. Everyone believed he would definitely get into Tsinghua or Peking University and have a bright future. I couldn't bear to see such talent wasted over financial struggles, so I took the initiative to cover his grandmother's medical expenses and supported him through high school, college, master's, and doctoral studies. Knox Shear lived up to expectations. Right after graduation, he joined the National Research Institute and eventually became a renowned scientist. In between, we got married, had children, and loved each other until our hair turned white. If I hadn't read his diary, I would never have known that the one he truly loved was always Eden Lin. My financial support became the shackle that forced him to love me, but when I supported him, I never expected anything in return. I simply didn't want to see talent go to waste. It was he who, after accepting my support, took the initiative to tutor me in my studies, and after we got into university, actively pursued me. The thought of him thinking about Eden Lin while being intimate with me in our past life makes me sick. "Nola, look, it's Senior Shear," Eden Lin squealed softly in my ear. Following the sound, I saw Knox Shear standing under the shade of a tree, youthful and naive, yet undeniably handsome. A dense pain welled up in my heart again. After all, I had loved him for decades, but he doesn't seem very happy, Eden Lin whispered, then volunteered, "I'll go ask if he's facing any difficulties." She was always like this, warm-hearted and kind. Eden Lin was Aunt Chen's daughter. When I was 10, something happened to their family. Her husband passed away unexpectedly, and she and Eden Lin were driven out by his family with nothing. Aunt Chen had no choice but to bring her daughter along to work. My parents initially disagreed, but 10-year-old Eden was cheerful and warm toward everyone, chattering away like a lively oriole. They were quickly won over by her and grew fond of her too. Upon hearing we were the same age, my parents immediately decided to continue hiring Aunt Chen and let little Eden keep me company, and so she moved into our home, attending elementary, middle, and high school with me, knowing Aunt Chen's financial difficulties. Her parents covered her tuition and living expenses. Petite in stature, she stood before Knox Shear at that moment, looking up at him with an unknown conversation, her face radiant with a bright smile. Knox Shear once mentioned in his diary that it was Eden Lin's kindness during this time that planted the seed of affection for this young girl in his heart. Her fiery passion was like a brilliant sun, illuminating his gloomy world. Before long, Eden Lin came running back to share the news she had gathered. With a look of disappointment, she said, "Nola, Knox Shear is dropping out of school. His grandmother is seriously ill and needs 100,000 for surgery, but his family is too poor. He has no choice but to quit school and work to earn the money." Then, as if firming up her resolve, she tentatively asked me, "Nola, could you lend me 50,000 first? I have 50,000 saved up, and I want to lend it to him for the emergency. He's such a good student. It'd be such a shame for him to drop out like this, just like in my past life." I smiled upon hearing this and said, "I've seen how hard you worked to save that 50,000. Don't throw it away. Let me handle the act of kindness this time, without another word. I immediately transferred this month's allowance to Knox Shear, asking him to use it for Grandma's treatment first. My family owns a large local chain of supermarkets, while we're not the wealthiest. Money isn't an issue for us. Hearing the same request this time, I shook my head apologetically. Did you forget about the flood in Jean County 2 days ago? I donated everything. Since Knox Shear sees my financial support as shackles, I'll put the money where it's truly needed, in this life. I won't restrain him anymore. As for his relationship with Eden Lynn, that's something they'll have to nurture themselves. Oh right, Eden Lynn patted her head. How could I forget about that? But she had a solution. She immediately launched a fundraising campaign at school. Knox Shear didn't stop her, though his expression wasn't exactly pleasant. Understandable. He had always been proud. In our past life, only Eden Lynn and I knew about his decision to drop out when his grandmother fell ill. Before he could even submit his withdrawal application to the school, I had already helped him solve the problem, allowing him to continue his studies with dignity. And Eden Lynn's move almost exposed his situation to the public. I didn't realize you were going through such a hard time. Here's half of my living expenses for this month. Take it, said Knox Shear's deskmate. He was a rich second-generation heir who usually idled away his time and consistently ranked last in class. The teacher paired them together with the intention of having Knox Shear, the top student, help tutor the underperforming student. But Knox Shear looked down on him and wouldn't acknowledge him unless he asked for help first. Now, the person he had always looked down upon was giving him a pitiful glance, leaving Knox Shear feeling helpless and humiliated. Yet the other person meant no harm, leaving him no reason to vent his frustration, especially not over 30,000 yuan. Just like that, with you giving a little and me giving a little, scattered donations, plus Eden Lynn's 50,000. We finally managed to raise over 100,000. Not only did Knox Shear get his grandmother the surgery, but he was also able to continue his studies. That day, just as evening self-study ended, Eden Lynn came running toward me with a smile. Nola, I have some good news for you. Knox Shear said he can tutor me, and I managed to get you a spot too. I took a step back and held her at arm's length. Ever since I learned about Knox Shear's feelings for her, I couldn't help but feel a bit distant and couldn't maintain the same closeness as before. I smiled and declined, saying, "Thank you, but I've applied for off-campus living, so I'm afraid I won't be able to take advantage of the top students' extra tutoring." In the end, Knox Shear made the same decision as in the previous life, except that back then, his target was me, and he actively invited Eden Lynn, but in this life, he was faced with Eden Lynn. And it was Eden Lynn who took the initiative to help me secure the spot. In our previous life, he had already shown favoritism in these small matters, but I was too captivated by his good looks to notice. Lost in the moment. Why, Eden Lynn's mouth fell open. Why so sudden? It's not that sudden. I only applied for 2 years of accommodation in the first place. My parents initially disagreed with me living on campus, thinking the dormitory environment was poor and too crowded. However, Eden Lynn persuaded them that it would be a good opportunity to experience communal living and prepare for university. I thought it made sense, so I insisted on staying in the dorm. My parents agreed to let me live there for 2 years, but I had to return home for my final year of high school. Now, I deeply admire their foresight. What? You never told me about this, Eden Lynn exclaimed in surprise. I frowned, feeling somewhat annoyed by her words. Just then, Hui Yi, our roommate, walked over. With a curl of her lip, she sneered, "Oh, who do you think you are? Does the young miss need to report everything to you?" "That's not what I meant," Eden Lynn said, her eyes darting around nervously, unusually refraining from her usual verbal sparring with the roommate she never got along with. Clearly, they're feeling guilty. Hui Yi's words also woke me up. Over the years, Eden Lynn always seemed to pry into my personal affairs under the guise of caring about me. No matter how trivial the matter was, I never guarded myself against her and would tell her everything without hesitation. She knows everything about me, yet I know very little about her. This is simply terrifying. Then she quickly added, "We grew up together, ate and lived together, never apart. Now you're suddenly moving out, and I'm just not used to it." Aunt Chen retired last year, so Eden Lynn no longer had an excuse to stay at my place, even if she also applied for day attendance. She would return to the small, old apartment her mom bought. After all, we're not biological sisters. We'll have to part ways sooner or later. From then on, during every break, lunchtime, or any free moment, Knox Shea would go over to Eden Lynn's side to help her with difficult problems and organize key concepts. And since Eden Lynn was my deskmate, it was hard not to notice their every move. In this life without my interference, Knox Shea got his wish, and I thought he would be overjoyed. But every time he tutored Eden Lynn, his face remained stern, without a trace of a smile, growing even more aloof. Meanwhile, Eden Lynn's cheeks flushed pink, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Knox Shea. I could read the meaning in her gaze: admiration, reverence, and even attachment, because, in my past life, I had looked at him the same way. Noticing my gaze, Eden Lynn glanced at me with a clear warning in her eyes. Then she smiled again. "Nola, do you also want to listen to Knox Shea explain the problem? You can just say it outright. No need to be so sneaky. People might think you have a crush on our top student, as cheerful and straightforward as usual." But her words were full of aggression. My expression darkened. "What nonsense are you talking about? The school strictly forbids puppy love. Don't make baseless accusations. She's the one who likes it," shamelessly thinking others are the same as her. Hui sat behind me. Speaking sarcastically, Eden Lynn's face turned red with anger, but in front of the top student Shea, she couldn't throw a tantrum. She gritted her teeth and held it in, her eyes also reddening, as if she might burst into tears at any moment. Pitiful and fragile, the kind of look most likely to attract men. Sure enough, Knox Shea's expression grew even colder. He glanced at Hui, and though he didn't speak, his gaze was icy enough to freeze someone to death. Hui awkwardly shut her mouth. I lowered my gaze to the book in my hands, yet couldn't suppress the sour ache spreading in my heart. In my past life, after Knox Shea tutored me with my homework, we often spent time together, and gradually rumors began to circulate. "Shea, the top student, is so good to Yarojiari. Are they dating?" "Surely not. The school doesn't allow puppy love. They'd call our parents." "Hihi, this kind of thing. Just between you and me, as long as we don't get caught and stubbornly deny it. No one can do anything about it. Shea, the top student, is so aloof. Yarojiari must have been the one pursuing him. What shameless behavior." All of these are unfavorable comments about me. I was trembling with anger. "Stop talking nonsense. Shea is just tutoring me. He's that kind-hearted. Or did you seduce him?" The more I refuted, the more vicious the rumors became. Knox Shea acted as if nothing had happened, neither clarifying nor standing up for me, until the rumors alarmed the school. And the teacher called in the parents. My father, in a fit of rage, brought out the company's lawyer and sued a few of the main rumormongers. Only then did the situation finally calm down. And now, Hui just made a sarcastic remark, and Knox Shea immediately jumped to her defense. Indeed, the difference between love and indifference is truly obvious. However, there isn't much time left for me to wallow in melancholy. Nowadays, my life consists of nothing but studying, day in and day out. Damn this wretched fate. Why couldn't I have been reborn after the college entrance exams? In my previous life, I lived to 80, decades past the Gaoke, and had long forgotten all the knowledge from back then. However, what comforts me is that with a younger brain, my thinking has become more agile. Coupled with my natural aptitude for learning, I'm picking things up quickly again. My grades weren't bad before, even without Knox Shea's tutoring in my past life. I could have gotten into a decent undergraduate program, but he wasn't satisfied. It seemed that unless he could get me into Tsinghua or Peking University, he felt he'd failed my financial support. Under his relentless pushing, I studied desperately and eventually got into Tsinghua or Peking University alongside him, but it left me with neurasthenia. Suffering from insomnia for years, given a second chance at life, I've gained a clearer understanding of myself. As the only daughter of my parents, the supermarket will inevitably be handed over to me in the future. With the experience from my past life, I realize that blindly pursuing higher education at the cost of health is not the way to go. For me now, academic qualifications are merely the icing on the cake. Therefore, I act within my capabilities, no longer anxious, depressed, or forcing myself beyond my limits. Living well, eating well, and feeling great, it didn't take long for me to notice that I had become even more beautiful, radiating with energy. Compared to my former self, who was once so dispirited, it was like night and day. Meanwhile, Eden Lin was the complete opposite of me. Knox Shea remained true to his original intent. This time, his beneficiary was Eden Lin, and he was determined to get Eden Lin into Tsinghua or Peking University as well. But Eden Lin's academic performance was only average. If I was just a step away from Tsinghua or Peking, Eden Lin was several floors behind. Who knows where Knox Shea found the courage? Eden Lin was forced by Knox Shea to study every single moment of every day. Within just 2 months, her eye sockets became sunken, her skin turned sallow, and she lost all vitality, becoming utterly listless. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but every time Knox Shea came to tutor Eden Lin, I always felt like there were glances occasionally directed at me. Yet, whenever I looked up, I never caught anyone actually looking my way. I shook my head. Perhaps it was just a hallucination from too much stress. Then, one Friday evening after self-study, Eden Lin stopped me. Her face was dark, and her words were sharp as she spoke. Yaro Jiari, don't think you can seduce Knox Shea just because you're pretty. I was utterly confused, looking at her massive dark circles and lifeless eyes, thinking she must be talking nonsense from exhaustion. So I decided to wake her up properly by slapping the wet towel in my hand onto her face. The chill of the cold water made her shiver, followed by a sharp scream. Yaro Jiari, what the hell are you doing? Are you awake? Look at yourself. What do you look like now? You're here for school, not to talk about love. Have all these years of knowledge been for nothing? Flirting with every word, talking about men constantly. Are you doing justice to Aunt Chen and your teacher's teachings? Eden Lin frantically dropped the towel, her eyes red. How I am is none of your business. It's not your place to lecture me. Mind your own business. If I ever catch you flirting again. Before she could finish, I splashed a glass of ice water on her, making Eden Lin shiver again from the cold. Watch your mouth. Huh. Don't forget who paid for your schooling all these years, who paid for your food. And you still want to threaten me? Eden Lin seemed to regain some sanity, but not much. She no longer swore, but the malice in her eyes was undeniable. I have Knox Shea's help. I'm going to Tsinghua and Peking University with him in the future. And you're destined to fail and be trampled under my feet. After uttering these harsh words, she stomped her foot and left. I don't know what magic love has, or what magic Knox Shea has, to turn a bright and lively young girl into such a malicious person. At the same time, I also confirmed one thing. The gaze I felt in the classroom was not imaginary. Knox Shea really was looking at me. Otherwise Eden Lin wouldn't have come to me acting crazy. I suddenly felt as disgusted as if a cockroach had scurried by. In my previous life, I loved him, but the one he loved unrequitedly was Eden Lin. In this life, I let him have his way, and now he's starting to stir up trouble again. When I got home, I asked my dad to pull some strings and use his financial influence. The very next day, I was transferred to Class 2 of the senior year. Both Class 1 and Class 2 are elite classes, sharing the same set of teachers, so the quality of education wouldn't suffer. But I didn't let my guard down around Eden Lin. In this life, even though I didn't interact much with Knox Shea, she showed extreme hostility toward me. So what about in my past life? I couldn't help but recall the rampant rumors at the time. There were 5 people who were particularly vocal, but I didn't know any of them. How did they find out about my affair with Knox Shea? I don't want to think too darkly of people, but Eden Lin's name kept flashing in my mind. I directly used the power of money to bribe those around Eden Lin. Perhaps my threat had an effect, and she settled down, no longer causing trouble. All her money had gone to Knox Shea. And if my family cut off her tuition and living expenses, it would be her turn to drop out. I successfully completed the college entrance exam. When I was about to check my scores, my dad sat on the sofa with a book and said, "Sweetie, don't be nervous. Our family doesn't rely on your college degree to make money. Any score is fine." I sighed. "Dad, your book is upside down." "Huh, oh." Dad then turned the book the right way up. Mom scoffed, "Old Yao. How can you comfort our daughter when you're like this?" I sighed again. "Mom, you used my foundation." "Huh, oh." Dad laughed out loud. Mom glared. Seeing they were about to fight, I quickly said, "It's out. Total score 702, that's 7 points less than my previous life. If the cutoff remains unchanged, it just misses Tsinghua and Peking University. But there's no doubt about getting into University A. This was within my expectations. so I wasn't too disappointed. Dad threw the book down, stood up from the sofa, and rubbed his hands, saying, "All right, all right, all right. Dad will definitely throw you a grand celebration for getting into college." At that moment, the class group chat became lively. I opened my phone and saw a large, pinned message. Eden Lin and Knox Shea had the same score. I slightly opened my mouth and asked in disbelief, "Is that true?" I wasn't the only one who was shocked. Many people had already expressed their doubts before me. Of course it's true. They both scored 412 points. The informant was the class monitor, who answered everyone at this moment. The group chat fell into silence. Everyone originally thought Eden Lin and Knox Shea would enter Tsinghua or Peking University, but instead, Knox Shea is going to attend a vocational college with Eden Lin. Monitor, where did you get this news? I typed and asked. I still have great faith in Knox Shea's abilities. Even with his eyes closed, there's no way he'd score so little. My family doesn't own an internet cafe. Those two came to check their scores here together and they haven't left yet. The class monitor replied, "I can vouch for that. I just got to the internet cafe, and Knox Shea and Eden Lin are arguing," my desk mate said in the group chat, along with an uploaded video. The main characters in it were none other than Eden Lin and Knox Shea. Knox Shea's eyes were bloodshot as he roared at Eden Lin, "Are you happy now? No need to worry about not getting into Tsinghua or Peking University and being separated from me." After speaking, he slammed the water bottle in his hand onto the ground. Eden Lin stood by, her small face pale. Having lived with Knox Shea for decades in her previous life, he had always maintained a cool and refined demeanor, never losing his composure like this. Does anyone know what happened? The top student really messed up this time. Did he fall asleep during the exam? Someone asked curiously. First-hand news, it's true. Suddenly, someone with the label Class 1, Senior 3 chimed in. "Hey, how did a traitor sneak into our class group?" someone remarked. The class monitor quickly explained. "He's not a traitor. This is Xiao Yi, the top student's roommate and also his exam hall mate." His explanation was too long, and I didn't feel like relaying it, so I temporarily added him here. As soon as the squad leader finished speaking, a string of thumbs-up emojis followed. "Then I'll continue," Xiao Yi said. "Hehe." Although it wasn't explicitly stated, everyone should know that Knox Shea and Eden Lin are a couple. The top student gave Eden Lin private tutoring every day, but the materials for these tutoring sessions didn't come out of nowhere. Classmate Shea had to organize them until 2 or 3 in the morning every day after returning to the dorm before going to sleep. Even during the 2 days of the college entrance exams, he was no exception. We all urged him to rest properly, but he said Eden Lin was always afraid of not getting into Tsinghua or Peking University and being separated from him. To comfort Eden Lin, he had no choice but to continue studying question types, predicting and solving problems. Perhaps he was too exhausted. He slept through both exams on the final day. This was something I didn't know, after all. The people I had bribed were all the girls around Eden Lin. In September, my parents sent me to University A for registration, where I spotted 2 familiar figures at the gate. Knox Shea was carrying 2 large suitcases, while Eden Lin had a backpack slung over his shoulders. Both had grown noticeably darker and thinner. I heard they had worked like crazy during the summer break and applied for student loans just to scrape together the tuition fees. Their school, meanwhile, was the vocational college across the street. Eden Lin also noticed me and curled her lips disdainfully. "Getting into University A isn't anything special. If you're so capable, why not aim for Tsinghua or Peking University?" I sneered. University A indeed can't compare to Tsinghua or Peking, but it's still better than a vocational college. Eden Lin flushed instantly, furious and humiliated. "What's there for you to be so smug about? We just underperformed temporarily and ended up in vocational college. We'll upgrade to a bachelor's degree, then go for a master's, then a PhD. We'll definitely surpass you." As financially struggling families, none of them had the means to retake the college entrance exams. Attending vocational college was a forced choice, but also their best option. I glanced at Knox Shea. If you said he was acting out of character, I'd believe it, but as for Eden Lin, this is just her usual level. I wonder if, after going through the college entrance exams, he would still drag Eden Lin along with him. Knox Shea grew somewhat impatient and came over to grab Eden Lin's hand. "Enough, aren't you embarrassed? Hurry up and go register, or we won't get a good bed if we're late." Seeing Nox Shear appear before me, Eden Lin immediately grew a little nervous. She first positioned herself between me and Nox Shear, then turned around and quickly pulled him away. Dad frowned. "How did she end up like this? Didn't they say she was in an early relationship?" "I'm afraid that boy led her astray," my mother speculated. "Alright, no matter what she does, it has nothing to do with us anymore." I coaxed my parents, and they came with me to a university. After graduating from university, I didn't pursue further studies, dedicating myself entirely to our family supermarket. On my mother's birthday, my father booked a hotel early, and I ordered a cake. When dinner time arrived, I simply carried the cake directly to the hotel. Pushing open the private room door, I found not the elderly couple I expected, but instead a young British man. I glanced up at the room number, 888. Yes, this was the right one. A bit puzzled, I asked, "You are?" The man smiled slightly. "Hello, I'm Feng Zheng, your blind date." Suddenly, it all made sense. No wonder my parents had been acting so strangely these past few days. They'd been plotting this all along. I couldn't help but find it a little amusing. It wasn't anything illicit, so why hide it? "Hello, my name is Nola Yao." I introduced myself confidently after entering. "In this life, I no longer yearn for love, but I need children, and our family also needs an heir, so I'm not opposed to arranged marriages." To my surprise, we had a lot in common and got along very well. Just then, the private room door was suddenly pushed open, and a man in a blue work uniform burst in. His face was slightly dark, and his anger was mixed with joy. "Nola Yao, I am your husband." It was Nox Shear. Ever since I started university, I've been helping my parents look after the supermarket while studying, and I haven't had much time to care about the two of them. I only occasionally heard from old classmates that when they tried to get into a bachelor's program after their associate's degree, they both failed again and didn't get into their desired universities, with no other options. They had to go work in a factory. At this moment, Nox Shear's hands were covered in machine oil, and his work clothes were dirty. I had no idea how the hotel let him in looking like that, but what made me nervous and scared were his words. It seemed he had also been reborn. I forced myself to calm down and looked at him displeasedly. "So it's classmate Shear. For old time's sake, I won't pursue what you just said, but please stop spreading rumors. You and I are just ordinary classmates. If I hear similar rumors again, you can expect a lawsuit." "I'm not talking nonsense," Nox Shear said, a little agitated. "Nola, you don't know, but I've actually been reborn. Actually, I had a crush on you in my senior year of high school, but Eden Lin was kind to me, and her possessiveness towards me was particularly strong. I didn't want to let her down, so I forcibly suppressed my love for you. But just now, I was reborn, and only then did I realize that in our previous life, we were husband and wife and loved each other for a lifetime. You don't know how happy I am. I thought I would love and lose, but I didn't realize I had already had it. In this life, I don't want to have any regrets. Nola, will you marry me again?" As for Eden Lin, I've already helped her a lot, and it's also because of her that I didn't get into university. My debt to her is paid. My eyes were cold. "Shear, you've watched too many short dramas, haven't you? This story is too outlandish. Rebirth, why don't you say you have superpowers? I really didn't lie to you. In my previous life, I was a great scientist, and we even had a beautiful son." But before he could finish speaking, several burly security guards rushed in and immediately pinned him down. Nox Shear was pinned to the ground, and he yelled at the security guards, "What are you doing? Do you know who I am? I'm a national treasure level scientist." Not sure if his brain was overloaded with memories from his past life, but he seemed a bit confused between his past life and reality. "Phut," one of the security guards spat at him, "with those clothes. You just got off a shift at the steel plant next door, didn't you?" "Scientist my ass." The security team leader apologized to us, saying, "Mr. Feng, MS, Yao, we're sorry for our oversight. We'll take him away now and not disturb your meal any further." Turns out Feng Zheng had called security over. Feng Zheng comforted me softly. "Don't be afraid, I've seen plenty of people like this. Every day, women come up to me, claiming to be my lover from a past life and wanting to rekindle our relationship. But once I check, they're all frauds, just after my money. That person probably has the same goal, to think more darkly, knowing you're an only child. Maybe they even want to take advantage of your family's wealth." His words made me laugh. "The way you say it, aren't you afraid I might suspect you of the same thing?" Though it was a joke, I couldn't help but think more deeply. Knox Shear might genuinely like me in this lifetime. But what might attract him even more could be the practical benefits I bring. In my previous life, besides funding his education, I also pulled strings and made connections to find mentors for him during his master's and doctoral studies. Otherwise, how could he have joined the National Academy of Sciences right after graduation? Now, without my help, he's been reduced to an ordinary worker at a steel factory, worrying about basic necessities every day. Can he endure such a drastic change in fortune? I don't need your family's paltry sum anyway. That's true, after all. President Feng Zheng's family is the wealthiest in the local area, and his famously clean living, an anomaly in the wealthy circles. But how could such a high-quality catch end up on the dating market? When I voiced this question, Feng Zheng sighed. "It seems you really have forgotten me." I looked at him, puzzled. "Have we met before?" But that can't be right. President Feng has been living and studying abroad all along and only returned in recent years to take over the family business. He stared at me intently and suddenly said, "The fire-tending girl, the sheep-herding girl." My thoughts were instantly pulled back to my grandmother's home. She lived in the countryside, and every winter and summer vacation when my parents couldn't look after me, they would send me to that small rural village. I helped my grandmother tend the fire for cooking, herd sheep, and raise chickens. There was no pressure at all, and it was quite pleasant. That annoying kid next door, he always gave me nicknames. We fought several times over it, and it always ended with me giving him even more nicknames. "You're a little darky, a black coal ball, a charcoal baby. Wait, why are you so fair now, and handsome?" Feng Zheng tossed his hair. "Hehe, that's what they call a man changing as he grows up. Actually, I've liked you for a long time, but I never found the right chance to confess." Looking into his eyes filled with me, I had to admit, damn it, I fell for him all over again. At the age to marry, after half a year of being together, we set our wedding date. What a coincidence. Knox Shear and Eden Lin were getting married on the same day as us. Our wedding banquet was held at the best hotel in the city, with Feng Zheng putting in a lot of effort to make it grand and luxurious. Eden Lin and Knox Shear were at a modest restaurant across from our hotel, making for a stark contrast in comparison. Before the wedding ceremony, I rested in the hotel room and through the window. I could clearly see the restaurant opposite. As the music played, a wedding procession stopped in front of the restaurant, and Knox Shear helped Eden Lin step out of the car. I wonder if they sensed my gaze. They both turned their heads to look in my direction. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion, yet neither of them showed any sign of happiness on their faces. Just then, someone came to call me, as the wedding ceremony between Feng Zheng and me was about to begin. After it ended, I was so exhausted that all I wanted was to collapse onto the bed, and so I did. Feng Zheng thoughtfully suggested I rest in the guest room for a while. The wedding he had prepared would continue until the evening, so he wanted me to regain some energy. I had just entered the guest room when a knife was pressed against my throat. Eden Lin, her eyes red, was filled with resentment and unwillingness. "Nola Yao, why are you always so lucky? In your past life, you married Knox Shear, a renowned scientist with wealth and looks. In this life, I finally get to marry him, but he's a penniless nobody. Worse than my marriage in the past life. In my previous life, she never showed any animosity towards me. We were always good friends. I also continuously supported her education, helped her integrate into our circle, and enabled her to successfully marry into a wealthy family. However, life in a wealthy family wasn't so easy, although her husband's family was stable. He had many affairs outside. The drastic drop in her standard of living caused her jealousy and anger to burn wildly, making her lose her mind and pick up a butcher's knife. Although I was scared, I dared not reveal the fact of my rebirth, so I frowned and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? My husband is Feng Zheng. What does that have to do with Knox Shear?" "Oh, in this life, you indeed have no connection to Knox Shear, yet you've married even better. The Feng family is the richest in this city. Your family isn't short on money, so why seek someone even wealthier? Why not let me have him? That way, it wouldn't affect your wealth, and I'd become wealthy too. Wouldn't that be great? You insist on forming a powerful alliance, which is simply a waste." Although Knox Shear agreed to marry me, his heart and eyes are filled with you. We're all human. Why have you been so fortunate in both past and present lives, while I have to suffer endlessly? I tilted my head back slightly. Eden Lin, speaking with agitation, had a trembling hand, and the knife's tip left a bloody scratch on my neck. At that very moment, a foot came flying with a sharp whoosh. Eden Lin didn't notice it and was caught off guard, unable to dodge in time. My wrist ached, and the knife flew out of my hand. Feng Zheng pulled me into his arms and asked anxiously, "Are you hurt?" I touched my neck. "It's fine, not serious." Feng Zheng glared coldly at Eden Lin. Reincarnation again. You've watched too many short dramas. Your stories all follow the same cliched script. Since you're so talented, you can write your stories at the police station." After the police arrived, Eden Lin was taken away and sentenced for intentional assault. Nox Xia also divorced her, but remained perpetually unfulfilled, living out his days as an ordinary laborer.